the homeless crisis in America is worsening again. The COVID pandemic caused a surge in housing costs and a rise in unemployment, leaving nearly 600,000 Americans unhoused in 2020.
We have to shut down a piece of our own humanity to be able to walk past another human being that is in such difficult situation.
And being homeless, your days anywhere spent from where I'm going to lay my head at tonight, where I'm going to get my next bite of food from.
And what people don't typically realize when they walk past a person who's homeless is that this person is costing taxpayers a lot of money.
Cities across America are spending more than ever to combat the crisis. In 2019, New York spent a record-breaking $3 billion to support its homeless population. California is also expected to break its record, allocating $4.8 billion of its budget to the same issue over the next 2 years.
And areas like that just don't seem to be getting any better, despite the fact that every politician claims that this is a top priority of theirs and the budgets keep going up.
Overall, homelessness in America has only improved 10% compared to 2007. It's even worse for certain subgroups such as individual homelessness, which dropped only 1% in the same period. On the contrary, 2020 saw a 30% increase in the unsheltered homeless, erasing over half a decade of work since its dramatic rise in 2015.
Right now, we're trending in the wrong direction. So the state of homelessness right now is pretty tenuous, and there are some small increases that are taking place across the board.
So, how is the U.S. addressing the homeless crisis, and can it ever be solved? Homelessness is known to prey on some of the most vulnerable populations in America. In 2020, 20% of those who were unhoused suffered from severe mental disorders, while 16% suffered from chronic substance abuse. In response, the U.S. has long relied on a housing-ready approach to homelessness, where those who are unhoused had to meet specific requirements such as sobriety or completion of treatment in order to qualify for a home. That was until this man, Dr. Sam Sambaris, pioneered the Housing First initiative.
At some point, myself and the people we were working with realized that really insisting that people change, get sober, take medication, get your life together in order to earn or be awarded housing was not working. You just, people couldn't. People were on the street. They couldn't stay sober. They were not interested in medication. They were interested in being somewhere safe and secure.
The Housing First initiative follows two tenets. First, the most effective solution to homelessness is permanent housing. And second, all housing for the homeless should be provided immediately, without any preconditions.
Putting people in housing first, which is what they were desperate to do, calms that survival thing, and people are safe, secure, and then they're saying to us, I need more help here, So then rather than having it us pushing or coercing people to get to treatment, people get housing and then they want treatment.
Under the George W. Bush administration, the Housing First initiative gained the spotlight as the key to ending homelessness. Related programs soon received billions of dollars in support from government agencies, such as the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness and the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Housing First's rise really begins in the 90s, especially in the late 90s, and I think it really gained traction as the philosophy that should dominate those dedicated homeless services, agencies, and programs. And so we're in a situation now where you meet people who work at HUD on homelessness or in major agencies in California and New York. It's relatively rare to not find them be committed to housing first.
If you really look at it this year, the federal government will give about $2.7 billion to housing and service providers and housing and cities across the country.
For decades, the Housing First policy has successfully housed individuals that need it the most. Shannon McGee is one of them. A nonprofit organization, Pathways to Housing, helped Shannon move into his supportive housing in 2020 after staying unhoused for 4 years.
It started in 2008, losing my mom to lung cancer. and then not having a strong support system to support me throughout the process. I ended up losing the family house. They sold the family house and didn't have anywhere to go. And that started the stint of being homeless. From being housed to now being unhoused, the shelter for me was very hard it was a culture shock. It was very hard to adjust to the environment, the living standards. I finally got connected to the Veteran Affairs, and a social worker with them connected me to Pathways. And since being connected to Pathways, everything has turned around 360 degrees. I'm housed, I'm looking for gainful employment. I'm in school now, and not without having Pathways there to kind of be that support and that coach to guide me into housing, I wouldn't be where I'm at now.
A study in 2004 discovered that when individuals were provided with stable, affordable housing with services under their control, 79% remained stably housed at the end of 6 months. Another study in 2000 found it to be more effective than traditional programs. 88% of the participants in Housing First programs remain housed, compared to just 47% in the city's residential treatment program. And it's not just in the United States. A similar study conducted in Canada revealed similar results, showing participants of Housing First programs obtaining and retaining housing at a much higher rate.
The evidence has shown that by getting people housed immediately and eliminating the chaos of homelessness, created a space where people would be more successful.
I don't have to be in that environment anymore where I'm subjected to using drugs or to doing things for money that I didn't want to do. I can change my focus. Is now I can say, hey, you're housed. How can we get you to your next level of finding gainful employment? What steps can we work on now?
Housing First not only supports those in need with housing, but the assistance they need to get back on their feet again.
It's housing first, not housing only, because there are very rich services. Like there's a team of people, really, whether they're social workers and nurses and psychiatrists, people with lived experience. It's like a support services team. And then the team says to you, how can I help you?
They provide wraparound support for me. So if I need assistance in getting things such as my ID or birth certificate, they help with that. They support me through that process. If I need to make appointments at the VA hospital, they support me through that process. Any and everything that I pretty much need done, I have support through Pathways to Housing.
Supporters of Housing First also argue that it's cost efficient. A comprehensive study in 2015 concluded that shelter and emergency department costs decreased with Housing First policies.
What people don't typically realize when they walk past a person who's homeless is that this person is costing taxpayers a lot of money. People get very sick when they're homeless. They have to be taken to the hospital. Sometimes they steal food. They have no money. They get arrested. Court costs, police time, jail time. When you tally up the annual costs of people who are homeless and very vulnerable, it turns out we're actually spending sometimes $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year in some cases. And the person is still homeless.
But perhaps the biggest advantage to Housing First is the improvement in the quality of life it provides.
Being homeless and being a parent, I kind of didn't want my child to see me in that situation. So it kind of put a wedge in our relationship for a little bit. But once I got housed now, I could provide a space where we can interact together and she wouldn't have to be subjected to that lifestyle. Being able to have my housing first, I know that I'm in control of my environment now. What happens here is all about what I create.
But Housing First also comes with its own set of criticisms. Experts like Stephen Ide from the Manhattan Institute believe that